Okay, the recording has started. This is the Affordable Housing Commission of Old Lyme. It's Wednesday, April 27th, 6:05 p.m. This is a special meeting. So since it's a special meeting, we're going to need to stick to the agenda, which has one item on it, which is to discuss our next steps towards putting together an ARPA grant proposal. Just a quick recap where we left it last week. We had discussed some possibilities. I think one item of consensus we had, which we can confirm during our discussion, is that whatever we do, we want to have the endpoint result in increasing the inventory of qualified affordable housing in town as one of the principles for this. We were exploring two options as of last week, which were one, working through social services to identify a potential owner-occupied property to rehabilitate as affordable housing, one or more properties, and the other was to identify a town-owned or a bank-owned property that could be rehabilitated that wasn't occupied or would not be occupied for refurbishing as qualified affordable housing. And since then, thanks Bill and Karen, we have a few more options on the table. So I'll leave that as the recap, and either Bill or Karen, you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, so basically, Karen had done some research from Chaffa, and there were a lot of helpful things on the website, got us thinking, and we talked about taking a look at some local. Karen spoke with Jen Datum, so maybe Karen, you want to just recap that piece.
It was a good conversation with Jen Datum. She's of course very easy to talk to, anybody who knows her. I didn't know she was on the ARPA committee, so that was helpful to sort of get it from both sides. The deed restrictions, she's like, geez, I don't really know that anybody would do that. But the more I talked to her, because even when Michael said that, I'm like, yo, no. But then the more he spoke about it, it makes sense. So what I said to Jen was what we had all talked about here, is that by allowing it to be deed restricted, it allows the next person to take advantage. And if they want the perks from us being able to help them maintain their home in a comfortable manner, maybe they would be willing to forego the ability to make a killing on it at some point in the future. So that sort of changed her thought process. But, she said when dealing with the ARPA committee, she wore a different hat at that point and said that, we can ask for what we want to ask for. We need to be prepared that they may not give us what we're asking for. What's our plan? If we're asking for, $500,000, if we only get $100,000, can we utilize that somehow? Or does that make us dead in the water? It's not. So it was all about flexibility. She said, they don't really know what they're going to get hit with. They don't know how they're going to manage all of these things. So they're trying to, develop their rubric at the same time as figuring out that, there's restrictions of financial and time and all of those other things. One of the things that she said about that we would have to consider if this was a path we chose. And once again, I started the conversation with her about a deed restricted home improvement sort of process. And she said, would we take into consideration their income or their assets, or those things that we would put as part of our criteria as a homeowner that we would be willing to assist. And she said a home for her, in her experience, their home represents independence. They have some freedom. It's their ticket to wealth or pride, or it just represents so many different things than just housing. And so it's important for us to remember that for the people that we're helping with. And she said, to look at different towns, which is what prompted me to start Googling all of these things, because other towns are doing the same thing that we're doing. So there really is no need for us to reinvent the wheel. It was more of, let's do a look and see what sort of things other people are doing that interested us, that sort of fit into our criteria of what we found interesting, which is how I found the information that Bill and I mostly started with. But Jen said to look at Ledyard, and she said, what else? She didn't know a whole lot about town-owned properties, that kind of thing. She said social services typically in her world is like a one and done. Somebody needs a tank of oil. Somebody needs, some ability to pay their light bill that month or car payment or whatever the case may be. But that it's important in her world to make sure that she's aware that these people feel like that they haven't done anything wrong, that we're just there to help them live a better life. So it's important to me, I think, that we don't fall into the social services realm because that's her world. I think we need to focus on housing and how to make housing better, which is sort of the conversations that Bill and I talked about and came up with some of these ideas that Bill so beautifully put together because I was just a jumble of words.
I think that's great. That's a great way to put it, and I would agree with you completely. Jen's a wonderful person, and she definitely knows what she's doing. So I would take stuff like that, since our last conversation too, I was just like, I'm not really sure how that's gonna fly. Like, fix my house, and then I'm just gonna, deed it to you when I die or something like that. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It would be such a more of a monstrosity to try to manage that versus some of the other options that you've presented.
Oh, Jen, just to jump in quickly, it's not a bequest. The deed restriction does not deed the house to someone else. It just means that they have to sell it to a qualified purchaser at a qualified price. So
Yeah,
they still, so it's
They only get an
constraints,
appreciation
but
10%.
there's no loss of ownership.
no, yeah.
Let me just jump back in there because when I talked to Jen about that, her immediate reaction was the same way I reacted when Michael came up with this. Like, I was like, whoa, it was a hard no. But then as I talked to her about it, she said, that's going to be all about communication, the way we present it, because we're not stealing anything from anybody and we're not taking anything away from them, but it's creating an opportunity for the next person down the road. And so she said, that our idea did have merit, but it required a great deal of communication and people to be open-minded because immediately, and I did it myself, the door closed. But then when I sort of mulled it over, the door opened back up again. So I think that's important.
Right. I think from an implementation standpoint, for the ARPA funds, though, it may be just tricky to come up with that exact project plan by I think it's the end of this year, and then implement the funds or use the funds. And so I don't know. It's one of the more difficult of the options. Let's put it that way.
Time works a little bit against us, both in getting a proposal together in less than a week, and that's credible, so I think this is a great idea about something that we should put in our thought process for moving forward as other ways that we might be able to into affordable housing. And I guess my mind was running as I started to really, I spent a fair amount of time in reading a lot and getting more immersed in this, about all of the different, in places where there is some affordable housing or some amount of a considerable amount of affordable housing, though they are very different from old Lyme for the most part. There are a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of, I want to say infrastructure, but I don't quite mean that. They're already working with either grant agencies or there are foundations or corporations that they're working with that I think make the job easier. But I thought, well, if we're really going to try to increase something, that is something in the future that maybe we could look at. How would we, even if it was, reaching out, we find out about a home. But it doesn't sound like this is something that's going to happen anytime soon or anytime easy, because Jen, in her social services capacity, no coming to her mind. Who she deals with are people who are renting, and so that's people in need of rental properties, but not something that we can fulfill at this point. So anyway, of the neighboring places, they said take a look at Westbrook. Of course, Westbrook has a couple of, two projects that it had in mind, but I didn't see anything in quick things other than the one project that I mentioned in Stonington, which is kind of like the project that we're talking about with John, taking a look at properties. But in Stonington, they happen to have this old school building and works. So the place Westport, what caught was that they had this pre-development, what did I use? It's pre-development funds, pre-development, we call it. Oh, I didn't. Here. Pre-development. Development funds. And
Funds.
so what was attached there was that they were going to consider it on February 9th. So I went back on the Westport's affordable housing website, and in April it was approved. It was listed as an approved project. So they appropriated $150,000. Now I believe Westport got 8.2 million. Was their ARPA amount. But in any event, it talked about architectural fees, engineering, site work, surveys, traffic, and environmental studies. Now, I don't think we would have, traffic and environment, maybe some environmental work. I don't know.
Well, that would just be with the septic system. That's nothing big.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, we'd have to get houses designed. So I don't know if any of that stuff. I was under the impression that construction was off limits, but it's specifically in the toolkit that's on, and this is from the Old Lyme. Old Lyme didn't make the toolkit, but it's the toolkit that's available on the Old Lyme website. Says that affordable housing interventions, including the production of it. So we tried to put down the things that were relevant. Seem like they're covered. So since we have this property and our intention to construct these houses, if we could get any money toward that, and maybe if it's not straight out in the building of it, if it's in the kinds of things that have to happen prior to building, thinking that could be something worthwhile. Now, I don't know how we find out whether indeed this is
I think
So
that's
Bill, let me add some weight to what you're saying there, because your note this morning was extremely timely, because I actually had a coffee scheduled with the co-chairs of Open Space a little later in the morning, which we did. And as it turns out, there is some site work that's going to be required on the two building envelopes on the McCulloch property, including some site work on one of the envelopes to accommodate a septic system, plus they agreed that we don't want to put any impermeable surface on the driveway that's town owned there, but there could be some improvements done to extend that to the properties. So and behind that, I think based on my continuing conversations with Open Space and the agreement to go forward and bring finance and planning and the Board of Selectmen in on this, that I think the odds are improving that we're going to have a successful outcome to actually launching a project to put 2 units of affordable housing on those 2 building envelopes. So, based on what you found out from what Westport's doing and some presumptive evidence that this is in bounds for ARPA funding, I think we have the basis for a proposal in that if we choose to go forward with it. We'll just have to, the missing link would be coming up with how much to ask for, but I think that's doable in the next couple of days.
Michael, one other thing that John Conlon had been on for a bit, he didn't say hi. But one of the things that Karen and I had taught, or Karen had researched, was one of the towns actually set up a trust. So because the people will be buying this, we can maybe ask for the money in a trust, and we would use it to do the McCulloch, but then use it to move forward as the people buy the properties. So it'll be a reoccurring thing down in the future. Does that make sense?
I think it makes great sense if we were getting some philanthropy in on this, John, but my understanding is, and we'll need to check this, is that whatever we get, we have a year to spend and complete whatever project.
You spend it, but then spend it, and then it'll roll back in as different money, which that money will be spent and gone, and take care of that person. But then when the people buy the properties, it'll roll back in. I think that's Worcester's doing that right now, Karen, I believe.
Or the other thing is, you may have noticed, but interest rates have gone up 40%. Mortgage interest rates have gone up 40% in the last 2 weeks. So I was just running some of the back of the envelope numbers on McCulloch, and we're going to start to get challenged to keep this in the affordable range. So
Gotcha.
the other thing it could be done is use the ARPA money to offset some of the costs for this property and keep it affordable.
So do we ask for more money than we need, and then just whatever we get, we're happy with?
I think
do we ask for 300,000?
I think we'd have to ask for what we can spend in a year.
Well, to spend 300,000, we could spend 600,000 and build 2 houses.
Well, I got to ask you a question though. When you say it has to be spent in a year, Michael, so Ledge Light asked for a percentage, which is what they did in Worcester. So those funds will be spent in a year?
I believe so. That was the feedback I got from the ARPA committee. We'll need to, once we have a proposal, I think we're going to need to say in a more concrete fashion, here's what we propose to do. How does that timeline guidance apply to what we're talking about?
Yeah,
but it's not open. I think the takeaway is it's not open-ended.
Yeah, I think it has to be. I think I wrote down 2026, but I'll look at my notes while you're talking. It has to be spent in full by 2026. But the actual detailed planning and project plan has to be done, right after we request the funds. So by the end of this year.
It's December
But in reality-
31st. It's December 31st, 2024. The funds must be obligated and then spent.
Right.
I just downloaded the whole application just so I could get a clearer vision of this. So it sounds like we would have a full year. We're 2.5 years to have the money obligated. Encumbered. I don't know if that's what we used to use that word. But it's going so much as to here. It's all designated. But then you'd have even 2 more years to actually spend it. I think in our hopes, we'd like to have this done certainly well within that, maybe even the first time frame of the December 31st, 2024. My only question is, I'm not so sure. Like, can we put? In other words, do we get an architect to? In other words, the details of how we even, it was sort of like I can think of
Bill.
Steve
Bill,
from the Congregational Church saying, "Okay, when are we ready to build? Like we're going to just show up." He has in his head, people are going to just show up on the site and start hammering and like a habitat build, and eventually
Bill,
that might be the case.
It isn't that. I mean, you may or may not get a house, an architect. You might just get a house designer. The big thing is going to be the septic placement. That'll sort of dictate, how much space you have for whatever. And then there's a number of house designs that are very reasonable to build. And I mean, it's from plug to play, you could probably get this thing rolling in 30 to 60 days. And, have it, buttoned up within 6 months, or less.
One of the things that Jen Datum said is that we don't have to just have one application. So there isn't a limit. So one of the things that I put in there, and I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to read it or not, but one of the things that I think really meets the needs where we choose a project, we have a cost or a price per house or whatever, was, the idea to make the current affordable homes that we have in town more green and more efficient, because they are, as Bill and I spoke, older. They've been here since the 90s, and maybe they need new roofs, and maybe they need an updated heating system, and maybe they need those things. So we are investing in our own affordable homes already. So while we're looking at people who may join our pool, I know it doesn't increase our housing stock, but it's still a really good use of money.
I like that idea too,
It
Karen.
makes
That
it,
makes sense.
and it
Karen,
makes it,
yeah,
it
that's a
doesn't
great idea.
increase the stock, but
Right.
it makes it better. In other words,
Yeah.
it makes the stock better. If we can make things green,
Better.
then it may show itself up in reduced cost for the homeowner.
And-
And it does meet the
And
need that
frankly,
we can say,
we're doing something.
and we can spend that within a certain period of time. So you knock on the door and you
Absolutely.
say, hey, we're here, let's talk. What do you need?
So two thoughts. One is, I think, regarding the McCulloch option, I think that's sounding more and more straightforward. So we could just basically put in for a grant to fund the pre-development and site work and construction. So
That's a big win.
125,000 each lot would be 250,000, and we could just put in for a $250,000 grant to.
I think that's low, Michael.
And
I think that's low because when I called I called some of the local modular places just to get a guesstimate of what something like that would run. He said site work's about 150. I don't know. I'm not a builder.
Yeah, Jen, I'll look to you on this one, but let me just say this, the second thing. So the improving existing properties, I'm totally on board with, it's a good thing to do, but to go back to our prior conversation, actually every prior conversation we've had on this, if it doesn't result in more affordable housing, then it's off our mission. And it might be a good thing to do, but it might not be for us to do.
Necessarily agree with that. I do with if they're not affordable housing to begin with. In other words, we started this with helping a homeowner who's, we clearly, that's not our mission. And helping rehab a house where even maybe somebody has a low, a low payment on it, but if it's not affordable housing and it's not going to be affordable housing, I would say no. But in stuff that is affordable housing, I think that is worth consideration. However, I would definitely say the McCulloch property is a bird in hand and is a definite, and would, as John said, if it could happen that quickly, I mean, this would show results. It would show for ARPA a definite result, but it would show for our town a definite result in a reasonably short period of time. But I wouldn't have the faintest idea. I hope John would about, doesn't require a lot of detail, but there's some detail. You have to have some kind of a budget. It says it only asks for estimates if you have gotten them. It doesn't even require estimates. They could come back and ask us for those as an addendum afterwards, but I think
Jen has experience of working through Habitat too on these kinds of projects too, that includes some of the donations that come in. And so she has kind of looking at it from the affordable housing construction cost.
So
well,
I'll
but
just
we
make
also, I mean, these guys,
clear with the site because the site could be, like as Karen said, could be up to 150,000. It just depends what's under there. And so I don't know.
well, but the question is what the site plan looks like for the septic. The septic's usually one of the big bogeys, and if you're hitting ledge or not. And so the perk test would have told us, is it bony or not bony? It doesn't look that bony because it's old farmland. So,
One of them-
you're
Apparently,
talking.
one of the lots does have some issues, but they are remediable, John.
Okay. I mean, if we can get that information, I could certainly put together a budget easily enough myself, or reach out to some guys that I know, and it'd be a workable number.
Great. Can I ask a question? So, but we definitely know we want to do, when they are saying, it's got to be impermeable, but with a driveway, we're talking the road. Is that what we're calling the driveway, right? So it goes out.
No, the
from-
driveway would be driveway where it ends and then drives to the new lots. I'm guessing that's what they're talking about.
It actually ends at the current road, the access road ends at the two lots.
Yes.
It goes from the circle, right?
cul-de-sac.
From the circle up to where the lots are. Okay.
And it
So,
goes by the two existing homes that are owned by Hope.
right.
Or the
So we
existing
Exactly. Yep.
parcels.
definitely want to do that, and definitely know we have to do the site work for the septic. And then,
Septic well, dig the hole for the foundation,
Yep.
That stuff.
Yeah.
Tip the water off them. I mean, it's just standard. I mean, and the question is, you got to talk to a well guy to find out how wells in the area are. Is it a $5,000 well? Is it a $10,000 well? Is it going to be low or is it going to be really deep? And, I can call a couple guys I know in the business, that we've used over the years, and we could certainly put together something that makes sense. And then, it's a workable budget.
ultimately, we were thinking, we had to just do this, right? All of this stuff would have had to come either from, donated funds wherever, and then whatever got passed on to the new homeowners. But whatever we get out of this would be fantastic. It would be great to get 500,000. I think we could ask for more. Let's be realistic though, and I think ask for the moon. I don't think that's a terrible thing. If the town has 2 point something, what do we have? 2.2 million?
Close.
I'd like to see us ask for a line too, Bill. I really would. Worcester
for
asked
what?
for a line. Worcester asked for a percentage of the total ARPA funds for affordable housing.
That. I don't know. Now I know that it's these are federal funds, but they all get funneled through each state. I was a little confused by that because nobody asks for a percentage. I saw that in the video that
Mm-hmm.
you recommended, but
I think on the application for this particular ARPA committee for Old Lyme, they're asking for a concrete
dollar amount.
number, not a percentage. So I wouldn't even mess around with.
Oh, that's a good point, Jen. Maybe they have different criteria that they're using for Worcester than they are for us.
So that, as we had mentioned before in our last two meetings, was that they are putting some weight behind this little survey that they did, and and then there's sewers and things like that are getting a lot more attention, and so we do want to kind of go in with something, but I think that Michael's relationship with them we can kind of get a feel for it. So if it's if we go in with 5 and they come back, personally to Michael and say, hey, Michael, 5's not going to fly, we can adjust it maybe, down to something else. I don't know if that's acceptable or not, or we just go in with a more reasonable estimate from John as far as what that does. And I was just going to add to what John was saying, that the site work is a big, especially in Old Lyme, with the ledge that we have is kind of an unknown, but typical house, from a habitat perspective, just for everybody's information, this is just a typical average that Habitat would build for a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, single story ranch type house would be about 110,000, but that does include donations from Eversource for the electrical work. And some donations from usually Lowe's for doors and things like that, and roof.
Right, so that's
What
what I
are
was
the
thinking.
caveats?
Go ahead, John.
I was going to just back to the Worcester thing. Worcester got 146 million, I believe. I think that was the number I saw for American funds. And so it's just a different basket. And we're dealing with 2.2 million. So we definitely want to be concrete, because if we don't get we should ask for everything we want, but then, it can be pared down very easily, and we can take less if we need to, and still actually make a positive change.
Right, and that'll be okay. As Karen was saying, that they're going to be looking for what's your contingency plan if you don't get what you asked for, but whatever we get can be used to offset the ultimate cost, and we'd have to go to whatever other sources we were going to use it anyway
Exactly.
to complete the funding. So
100%.
every dollar will be a help, and won't be a showstopper. If we got everything we asked for, it would be great. If we got half of what we asked for, we would still keep going. It wouldn't stop the show.
Exactly. It's not a show. Perfect.
A question for John. From your experience,
Sure.
Is it expensive to put green options when you start brand new? In other words, a lot of times when you're trying to retrofit property and make them greener, it's costly.
Well, I
Are
think
there
you're going to look in that
green options?
direction.
It's just something I was thinking about.
I think, well, the problem is I think that some of the traditional ways of doing things are going to be a lot less expensive than green. But if we could look at green, if it's not cost prohibitive, but a lot of things like geothermal wells and things like that. I mean, just you're drilling 8 to 10 wells. I mean, it's between the two lots, it just wouldn't be cost effective. It will be cost effective down the way, but you have to pay for it up front. So you add $100,000 or $50,000 cost to the house, where you just put a heating system in, for $4,500, $5,000, $8,000, whatever number is, $16,000. It's a lot less. So I think that's the thing we have to be careful of. You want to insulate it and have, Eversource will come out, and sometimes they'll work with you with that, especially on affordable. So that's something we could talk to Eversource down the road, where they do the testing and then also the lights, the fixtures that are all, Energy Star and LED and all that stuff. And they tend to be pretty, because it's an affordable, they probably would pony up, because it's only two small houses. So, they would definitely, I think, and it would look good for them. So, I mean, I think that's something we're just going to have to go down the way, but we'll have to use real world numbers, for this purpose. And then we'll have to do some due diligence and, finding other things to mitigate the cost down and also push in the green direction.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but as I was really getting excited by a lot of the reading that I was doing, and I thought to myself, well, maybe making some of these greens, like making sure, for example, because maybe you could get somebody to fund something like solar panels, but it would be nice to have the orientation set up so that they're in the most optimal way. So obviously we're not there yet, but my mind was really thinking about all of these things. And it's not that enters into right now into what we're going to ask for, but it was, as we get into the project, looking for ways to keep it as green as possible would be, I think, because that saves a person. If you make a difference with electricity and go solar, for example, or are able to do that, I mean, people are paying $3 and $4 electric bills, and that's the end of their electric. So anyway.
But
the tightrope we have to walk is just make sure at the end of all this, whatever we do, it's going to have to be able to be sold to a qualified buyer at a qualified price and come in at that price point.
Exactly. Yeah, you drop a $30,000 solar panel on the roof, all of a sudden it's a $30 ad, and then all these people, it's out of the bucket that people could actually use for housing payments. So
Sure.
we'll have to walk up, we'll have to look at it, and there may be somebody who will donate. Correct. So that's the thing that we definitely want to look at, if we can.
The future building committee will look at, not this commission.
Yeah, that's not us, but yeah, exactly. You're correct, Chad. Absolutely, 100%.
So if we focus on this, what I'm hearing is that our top priority for this application due on Monday seems to be that it's the infrastructure, if you will, to prepare for the two McCulloch properties, which we will then endeavor to, propose to the selectmen that they form, something on, but we don't have to include all that. So it's really the design and site, well, what would you call it, John? Site planning,
Correct.
site support?
Site work.
Yeah, site work.
Site work, yeah, site work, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be, it'll be the road in, it'll be the septic, it'll be the data foundation and the well.
The
So
well.
that's kind of what we're looking at.
Can we, are we at that point that we could make a motion? I mean, we still have to do all the back work to get this paperwork done. And we certainly are in a time crunch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think, Michael?
yeah. And before we do
Amount.
that, two things. So, yeah, I think that the getting some seed money to get the McCulloch project off the ground is sounding better and better. And I think we should go for it. Come up with a number. I think we have enough detail to say what we intend to do with it. And again, based on my conversations with some of the stakeholders, I think that the probability is very good that this project is going to happen at this point. Not guaranteed, but pretty good. So that sounds like a definite for us. But we can put that to a vote and make sure we're all on the same page. But Karen, I was thinking of this, and you reinforced it with what Jen said, which is we're not limited to putting one application in.
Right.
So we've talked about two other things. So one is getting the assistance to a current occupant to bring an unsafe or distressed home up to code and up to safety in exchange for a deed restriction. And that would be more of a scalable fund. We could ask for a pool of money that would be used to do that and have a process through which potential recipients were identified and the funds were allocated. But that would require sponsorship from social services to do, because they would really have to be out front.
And I think that Jen certainly was willing to work with us. I mean, she was not adverse to that. And I think, to your point, Michael, if we were going to put for a proposal for, say, I don't even know, so I'm just going to pull $50,000 out for a situation like that, that gives us a placeholder for the funds. So I think even though that's a much more foggy request.
Yes, less concrete.
Correct. I still think it's valid. I think it's got some potential. It's not easy to identify a property like that and a property owner, but that doesn't mean it's not worth the ask.
Right. And we may get, and Lime's experience with deed restrictions was not positive. People are very reluctant to put a deed restriction on. But I think for our mission to have the possibility that someone could get ARPA funding through us and then be able to profit from that at the end without having it sold to a qualified buyer probably takes it off our mission. It might be a good thing to do, but it takes it off our mission.
What would happen if we asked for this and we were awarded it and then we were never able to use that because we couldn't find anyone who wanted to be deed restricted or something? What would happen to the funds?
I think they get returned.
Don't they roll,
Typically, you
they
just
roll
have to
back?
return them.
They roll back to the town?
Yeah, they'd be used for another purpose, or they go back to the feds.
Right to the feds, which you don't want to do.
We don't want to do that.
No, Old Lyme would find a use because sewers are considered infrastructure, and infrastructure is included in ARPA, so it would go towards sewers for sure, or bridges. Those are two major things that they're talking about spending this money on. So
Right. I just don't want I don't want us to be responsible for losing this fund.
Risk losing it. I'm with you, Karen.
yeah, we're not going to lose it back.
So
to
there's
the
that one, potentially an application along those lines. And then the third thing out there is we had talked about finding bank-owned properties. Now, I did just a little poking on this one, and it seems like there's an expectation that there's going to be a wave coming up because of some of the forbearance that was granted during the pandemic is going to be ending. So not to take
It
advantage
is
of
starting,
people who-
Michael.
Say again?
It is starting because I did a lot of research, but they are allowing most of these people to do some mediation, and the banks are actually playing ball with them. I think the next wave is going to really hurt people. The people that have sat there and done nothing, they haven't reached out to because there's a number of people that they haven't even gotten back to the court because the foreclosures only opened up just recently, or I forgot, a couple months ago, whatever it was. So that's why it sort of hit the system. But a lot of those are either too expensive or there's plans in place or it's a long road. That's why it's probably nothing we can do this unless we could plan for it for later, and then it makes total sense.
Yeah. So the timing doesn't seem right, but I just wanted to float it out there to see if it'd be worth putting a
I feel
placeholder.
like the foreclosure tsunami, I don't see a tsunami. I see a trickle. There's many programs. People will sell their house. There's many developers. I was just house hunting with my sister over the last few months, and there was people going in to buy that corporations were buying houses so that they could rent them out. So there
Yeah,
are
Karen, what Michael's saying is right now the mortgage rates are rising.
correct.
This is not the market today. This is the market down the road a piece because it's gonna price people out of being able to afford mortgages because of income constraint, all kinds of things. So this may be something we can take advantage of down the road, 6 months, a year.
There's nothing for ARPA though.
Okay, good. I
No.
didn't feel strongly about either of those. Those are two things we had talked about. I just wanted to run by them, but to my mind,
It's not short term. It's going to be a long term.
so the McCulloch thing seems like as close to a no-brainer as we're going to get.
It's a home run.
There, ask for more on the McCulloch one than submit a second grant. But as far as I see, even construction of the house is allowed. It made reference to these two other programs, home and something else, which I looked at. They've been in existence for a long National Homeowners.
Yeah, I think those are different grants though. The HOME, the home program. I think
Yes,
different
they're
stuff.
different grants, but what ARPA said was if they would qualify, similar to the way they qualified, they would qualify for ARPA funds. And as long as it's adding to the affordable housing stock in your community seemed to be what the and if that's the thing that's highlighted. We highlighted it. Specifically, the rule does allow investments to be made in affordable housing if a development increases the supply of affordable housing. And then it said they would work. So I think that, I don't know if somebody has to rule on it or,
I think,
but
I-
it
and I would-
seems to me it's okay.
yeah, that's a great point, Bill. I think that Michael, do you know like if does Rick make that determination, or does that have to go up to the state? Does like Rick submit something up to the state and then the state of Connecticut has to say this is within the boundaries of the final rule? Or how
I
the process
don't
works?
know, but I don't think that needs to stop us from putting in an application for next Tuesday.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. For
It's not
putting in
critical path.
very general. Yeah. So maybe we do go for it really and just shoot for the moon and just go with the best plan, and then see what they come back with. There could be two conditions, which would be one, the state won't allow it or the federal government won't allow it. And then we have our fallback, which is the site work, the site prep, the design, etc. And then you know, and then if we're competing against other town projects, we still have that same fallback, I think. But I think our minimum position going in should be the site work and development of that road and getting all those details, you know, in order so that an actual house can be constructed. And then we can go forward with the community plan after that.
What about 2 grants? One that's strictly site work. I just have this feeling that that's something that it's
No brainer.
the town is committed to it. They've invested in it. There's a whole lot going on there. So if we were to maybe make that one
Yeah, I like that.
grant and be toward the construction of the houses, maybe as a separate grant, maybe that's a way to go.
Yeah, do an application for the site work and an application for the actual construction. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Not see them giving us even 400. They're not going to give us 20 to 25% of the grant. I can't imagine that. I mean, but I could imagine them giving us $100,000 for the site work because it's to the towns. The town wants to get. I think that when I say the town government, I think wants to get those houses done. They know we have to do something.
I tell you, if we had 100K each for those, so 200,000 total, 100K for each, that would take us so far down the road. That would be a real enabler, and I think it would help get the stakeholders in the town behind it because it would just become so much more feasible.
Yeah, I like that.
That'd be great.
I think that's reasonable. Accused of being too reasonable, but I think, I do feel that you ask for more, you're not going to, nobody's going to come back and say, oh, you asked for 2, we're going to give you 4. But I understand that, but I just think it's.
I think we should ask for 150 for each, Michael, and if they kick us down to 100, it's still a win, to your point.
Bad idea.
I mean, if we ask for
Okay.
100 and they kick us down to 75, I mean, you know what I mean? Even if they only gave us 75, anything we ask for is a gift, but I would really like to see us ask for 150 for each lot.
I agree.
Okay.
And from the and like I said, I'm not an engineer. I don't know the rules about this, but when I called the guy off the cuff at the modular place, he told me a good ballpark was $150 each. So that's my information.
Jen and John, does that comport with Jen, your experience from Habitat, and John, your general experience in this?
Yeah, you're gonna be right. I mean, you gotta put some dirt around. Septic's anywhere 25 grand. You're anywhere from 5 to 15 for the well. That puts you right in that same ballpark.
Right, and how far do we have to go in for power? What's CLMP going to charge for that?
Well, there's 2
Sure,
houses.
You gotta think yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get Eversource to pony up for the electric. So,
They'll bring the line in for free, but you still have to dig the trench, put the conduit in. You gotta put the cable, and everybody's gonna go on the ground. So
Is it underground or is it above ground there?
I think it's below ground. No, I'm not sure. It'd make a lot of sense to make it below ground. It'd be cheaper, probably.
I don't know.
Long run.
I think because of the conservancy aspect, I think it's underground there.
So can we make a
It could be.
motion for that, Michael?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes any difference, but I don't know if I would go in the concept of 150 for each lot, as opposed to even if you use the same 100 for the site work or 150 for the site work and 100. I think keeping the construction of the houses separate from the pre-development, it feels like that's almost like a separate phase, and that
Sure, it is. Absolutely is.
I can granting the first one in its entirety and not granting the one for building the houses, but I could be wrong about this. Sort of my, so I'd rather spell it out as two different things, but that's just my thought.
Fine with that.
The pre-development work, put a dollar figure on, and then the building of the houses.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah.
I
So
agree.
is
100%.
would this be the sequence, John? Would be so, I mean, so we do have to do something with that road, right? And figure that situation out.
Well, you're gonna create a site plan, so which will have your septic, your house layouts, and that'll dictate, where the road goes, where everything has to do. And that actually, that'd be plan one, and that's probably $5 to $6 per. I mean, if we get somebody to do it reasonably, it's 5,000 per house, or maybe a little less than that. And then everything else follows after that, because you're going to know where the well's going to be, you're going to know where the septic's going to be, where the road's going to come in, and where the foundation, and then that's that everything will happen after that.
And we'll try to get a lot of labor, a lot of design hours for free, because that's affordable housing. So the labor hours we'll have to pay for, but like, I think the design features, a lot of times we get all of that stuff for free. So, but we have to right people.
So that's what you put into what are some other, whether it says grants or what are some other sources of funding. So I think we put that in the description. But I think it's important to be as realistic as you can about what the cost is. In other words, you say, well, really cheap, could you do it for $5, maybe it's $7. I think we're better off figuring $7 for something, or 10 when you think it might be 8, just for, or you figure out the whole thing and then do some kind of a contingency.
Bill, we could dig down, there could be ledge somewhere, and all of a sudden you're blasting or you're cracking. I mean, the thing is, $150,000 is a very comfortable number to make it happen, for both, for each lot. And that would be a great way to start. And then I agree with your thing, ask for some money to start putting up the foundation, the actual building. And they'll probably say no to the building part, but they'll say yes to the pre-work, all the site work and everything.
Yeah,
So-
it seems like a very high number for site work for me, but I
No,
don't
it's not. It's not.
know, of course, so that's nothing, but 150 each just for site prep, and design.
Development work or the site work? Wow.
So
Well, you gotta
another way
bring
we can
material-
approach it is Bill, I understand where you're going with having 2 grants, one for pre-work and one for the construction. But what we could do is apply for a grant for the planning, site work, and construction for the project to develop 2 affordable homes on the 2 designated building envelopes on the McCulloch property, and ask for enough that we're confident would do the site work and potentially offset some of the construction
Yeah, it
costs.
could spill
And
over
then-
to, it could
And
spill
then
over
to the extent it was
construction.
cut back, whatever we know we could use it. So if we ask for a total of 300K, say for to offset the costs for planning, site work, and construction to develop affordable homes on the 2 designated building envelopes on the McCulloch Family Open Space.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And with the understanding, though, to not make the selectmen think that that's what we're thinking it's going to take to build the houses. So,
Right, that's
So
why I put offset the cost.
yeah, offset. Yeah, big capitals on offset the cost. Yeah.
And indirectly, we're also getting our line that way too, because when we sell the house, we get the money back that we can use for the next project.
Exactly.
Okay, let me recap what I think I heard and correct me if I didn't. So we're talking about asking for funding to offset the costs of planning, site work, and construction for a project to develop affordable homes on the 2 designated building lots on the McCulloch family open space in the amount of $300,000.
I agree with that.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
I wonder,
Okay.
I wonder if we want to use another just adverb between that. So to begin or to, I don't know, to commence,
Initiate.
to initiate work on offset cost of, just to make it that we're gonna like get going on this right now. So
Yeah, I'm just grammar here, just initiate,
we need Grammarly. Yeah.
offset the cost of initiate. So it's not just offsetting the cost of initiating, it's offsetting the cost of the project.
No, I
So-
meant to initiate, like to initiate work on and then offset cost of.
Yeah, to initiate work and offset costs. Okay. All right, so then we're talking about asking for funding to initiate work and offset the costs for planning, site work, and construction for a project to develop affordable homes on the 2 designated building lots on the McCulloch family open space in the amount of $300,000.
Perfect.
Yep. And I think everybody on the committee, or I don't know if this is necessary in the application because it didn't really have a very large description part, but I think everybody's familiar with the plan that the selectmen have already approved the McCulloch properties to be, converted to affordable housing. So by a certain date, a date certain, whatever. So I wonder if, that will give us more impetus so that we are going to use these ARPA funds in the time designated because we have this other deadline pending as well.
Yep. That could go in the description.
That's a good point.
All right, are we ready to go to a motion on this one?
Ready to
All right,
go.
so I can read my notes and then ask for a motion on it.
Okay.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
Good.
So we're looking for a motion to move forward with an ARPA grant application for funding to initiate work and offset the costs of planning, site work, and construction for a project to develop affordable homes on the 2 designated building lots on the McCulloch family open space in the amount of $300,000.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Moved by Jen, second by John. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to the vote. I'll do a quick roll call on this because can't see everyone. So Jen,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Bill? I saw your lips move, but I didn't hear you. Bill's an aye. And John?
Aye.
And I will add an affirmative to that. So it's unanimous. That's what we're
Is
going to do.
Amy's on the line too, but she's not voting today.
Amy's alternate today. We have a full contingent of regular members. Okay. It was a winding road, but we got there.
Mhm.
Well, we got to the first waypoint at
It
least.
was good. I learned a lot.
So to get this done, I'm not going to be much good to you on this. I'll give you a little backdrop. There's a selectmen's meeting on Monday the 2nd, I've been working with SLR to get the 830J plan into shape, and going to be getting the final draft of that back from them tomorrow, if I don't this evening. And we're on the agenda on Monday for the Board of Selectmen to give an overview of the plan and pretty much transfer it to the Board of Selectmen to take that plan up for their role in adopting it and submitting it to the state. So I'm going to be pretty tied up over the next couple of days, especially between now and Monday. So going to be looking for folks to take the lead on actually writing this grant app.
I'm gonna have to take a hard pass on this one, guys. Sorry.
Understood.
I'm good. I'm good today, tomorrow and Friday, Thursday and Friday. So I don't know, Bill, if you're available, I could totally work with you and Karen and John and kind of throw something together. So, but I'm mostly available all day tomorrow and Friday.
I'm going to be in Boston all day tomorrow. Time Friday, but
Well, let's do this. Let's go, John, you're kind of the man of the estimates. So could we get, I don't know what kind of breakdown we need. I think it's very high level for this
Yeah, I
particular.
don't think it's just a really
no, this
close budget would be
Yeah.
really
Real
high
topical.
level budget.
Yeah.
Chad, I'll come up with a budget in the morning. I'll
Okay.
make some quick phone calls, just ballpark it, and sort of give you a sort of a thumbnail sketch to look at.
Okay.
And then
And
probably I'll get it to you by like noontime, and then because I got to be in Farmington for 7:30 or 8. But
Okay.
but after that, I'll make the phone calls on the ride up, ride back, and then I'll shoot you a quick email, and so
Okay.
that'll at least give you some numbers to work with. And then Friday, I'm available on and off all day, and just got some meetings, but nothing too crazy.
Okay, let me I'll use your numbers, do a draft in the afternoon. I'll send it out to the team.
Perfect.
And if
Great.
anybody has any comments, send it back. Is that okay with FOIA? Michael?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Just make sure it's
we'll
clearly
do
marked
that.
out.
And then, yeah, we'll work around it anyways. And then once we have that draft app, then if Michael, if you have any comments on it, then you can look at it over the weekend.
Good. I'll be able to do some reading, but not a
Outstanding.
lot of writing because I got to prep for the selectmen's meeting on Monday.
Okay, all right,
That,
cool.
that works.
Jen, I am I'm open to, but it would really be over the pretty much the weekend. But if there's more, writing, editing, something like that, I can certainly take a look.
No, I definitely want you guys to look at the draft for sure. And I mean, it's like I think everybody's seen the application. It's pretty high level, so it's not
Yes.
a thesis on anything. So so I think we could submit it anyways. And if they have any feedback on that, they can come back to us. But the important thing is that we submit it in the time frame that they prescribed, and we get it in.
And John, when you're doing the budget, I talked to Amanda today, and apparently they don't have the full reports back from the surveyor or from
Okay.
Ledge Light, but do have clear indication that one of the lots at least is going to need some remedial work for septic.
Okay. Yeah, it's usually septic, ledge or something. Absolutely. And so
Yeah, I think they're
raising the grade or
going
something.
to have to bring in some material to
Yeah.
make it work.
No problem.
But
We'll
At
plan
least
for
one of
that.
them is not going to be straightforward, but is doable.
Good. It's awesome.
All right, good. And what is there a reason that we don't have that report yet back from them, or?
Not a good one that I'm aware of, but Amanda's back on it. So
Okay, all
Good.
right. I mean, it's been a while.
yeah, it's way overdue.
Yeah, it's usually like a week. So it's, way overdue.
All right, well, but yeah, when you get pro bono work, this sometimes happens, so.
I understand. Yes, I understand.
All right, so I'll be talking to you, John, tomorrow, and I'll
Absolutely.
send a draft app out for you guys to review tomorrow night, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
All right,
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. This is
Karen,
good.
and everything for your work. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks for all the background research. That was an enabler. Get us where we are. Thank you.
Lots of luck, Karen.
Thanks.
Yeah, enjoy.
You.
Good
Do you
luck,
get good
Karen.
weather? Yeah.
I'm
Looks like good
sorry.
weather.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. Yeah, we're lucky.
It's great.
Wait,
Hope
am I
it
missing
goes great.
something?
Oh,
Okay.
Jeff's getting married, Jen.
Billy?
Jeffrey is.
Oh, Jeffrey is. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right. I'll talk to
Okay. We ready to adjourn?
Yes,
Absolutely.
I'll look for a motion.
I make it.
Karen,
Motion to adjourn.
John, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Meeting's adjourned, and we'll be in touch. And
Thank
I'll just remind
Appreciate
you
it.
that
Thanks
there is a Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday. I'm on the agenda to just walk the Board of Selectmen through the affordable housing plan and pass the baton. So if you're interested, there'll be a dial-in. As I'm pretty sure they usually do a dial-in, or it'll be a town hall.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
you. Good luck.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Good night, everybody. Thank you much.